shit, that's cool. That's what that thing was?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Hello?
Track your submissions, but otherwise it doesn't tell everything you've ever done. Let's see what we gotta do on lobby cards.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. How are you all doing?
Good.
All right, look, I got a lot of panels this weekend, and if you guys are in any of my other panels, I'm going to let that slide today. I get it. It's Thursday. You're just rolling in here. You got the little Comic-Con bug still in you. I'm going to let that slide today, but if you're in any of my other panels the rest of this weekend, know that that will not fly. Well, thank you. Thank you. That's what I'm talking about.
Jazz hands.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, welcome to DC Movies from the bottom to the top panel. I am Mike Watson. I am a comic creator. This is my co-host here, Seth Everett. I'm going to let him tell a little bit about himself and who he is because he's really awesome. I'm very excited to have him on this panel with me today. So big ups. It's going to be a good show.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be moderating panels. No one has to cheer. I don't mind. My name is Seth Everett. It's great to be back at Wizard. I was with Wizard in 2015.
Okay.
Worked on a project called Con TV.
Oh, I remember that.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
But Con TV was a lot of fun, and that's how I got introduced to them. And then in 2015, because of my experience with Con TV, I created a podcast called The Hall of Justice. And the slogan is, if you're old enough to know what the Hall of Justice is, you're our demographic. And basically what it is, it's a show about this genre, but it's for grown-ups. Mm-hmm. And what we don't do is we don't do the, who would win in a fight, Spider-Man or the Hulk. Like we don't do that. We interview actors and directors, we review movies, we spoil them, but we warn, so we're not mean. And it's a lot of fun. So the podcast was created here at Wizard, so it's good to be back.
Yeah. And as I was saying, my name is Mike Watson. I'm the publisher of Short Fuse Media, where we publish around 30 different comic books, and the owner of Freestyle Comics. Thank you. My own personal branding of comic books. Also, I do a podcast called The Good, The Bad, and Nerdy. I'm one half of that. My partner, Katie May, couldn't be here this weekend. I really wanted her to come. But I make comic books. Yay! Here is, because I love technology, a little preview of the books that I make from the Freestyle Comics universe. These are all our characters. We have a number of characters. We use some of our feature characters there. And we at Freestyle Comics believe that anyone can be epic, no matter your size, shape, color, or sex. Does not matter. Everyone gets to have superpowers at FSK. So people can look like you and punch somebody in the face. Flat out. But we're not talking about FSK or Short Fuse, although if you guys follow me back to my table, A23, I will give you a free gift for checking out this panel today, and you get to see some of the stuff that we do. Don't feel obligated to buy anything. I'm just trying to feed my kids, keep my wife happy, pay the rent, the mortgage, the car note, my student loan debt, whatever else. But don't let me guilt you into purchasing anything from me. Either way, if you buy something or not, I'm still going to give you a free item because you came and hung out with us today. But I had a little bit of time to kill because we got here early. So we're going to get into this. DC Movies, a.k.a. Warner Brothers. From the bottom to the top, we will be discussing today why are the films seen more successful than previous installments. And Do the old films still work with this new direction? Do we want the old films still? Do we want them to continue doing what they're doing? And how can they continue to succeed moving forward? So you guys ready? Yes. Facebook Live audience, thank you for tuning in. I'm so happy that you're here, part of us. This is my second panel today, and there'll be a whole lot more. I can't see your questions, so I'll have to answer those later, because my phone's far away from me. So we get this excellent shot of Seth and I, because we look good up here today. All right, so now let me get this out the way, disclaimer, because I want to get this out in the open so our relationship starts out good. So you need to know all the things about me. I love Man of Steel. I don't care what anybody says. I'm a huge fan of it. I don't understand why people don't like it. But I see that a certain group aren't feeling that film. And we're here talking about the films that are successful, how and why. Our first film was Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman came out and it kicked the door in and said, I am here, what you got to say about it? This film had a lot of hype behind it, made a lot of money, and it did a lot of good things. What, Seth, is one thing that you think was key to the success of the Wonder Woman film?
In the Wonder Woman film, they showed reverence for the character.
Ooh.
You could tell the people who made that film, especially the director, Patty Jenkins, loved Wonder Woman.
Okay.
The Man of Steel movie was an obvious attempt to change.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Woman was an obvious attempt to honor. And I think that's the biggest difference. I'm not going to sit here and debate Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't like about Man of Steel was he was always angry. And it was dark. And it was mean. And Lois Lane met him, and then 6 hours later, she's on a spaceship. And the idea that you had to change because you couldn't go to the source material. I hearken back to a line, Bruce Timm. We all know who Bruce Timm is.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Bruce
Timm, in one of the earliest interviews, I think it was in Wizard Magazine, when they had just started the Superman animated series, said that writing Superman is really hard. He was answering a question in why they powered him down in that cartoon. And the reason was because they were trying to come up with ways to give them good stories. And my response to that then was, good. I like that it's hard. Because that means when you see greatness, it was great at something that was hard. And that's what Wonder Woman became. Wonder Woman was a movie that you could tell they cared about every detail. Can I tell my Wonder Woman joke?
Tell your Wonder Woman joke.
My favorite part of the whole movie is that Gal Gadot, as great as she was, cannot do an accent of any dialect but Israeli. Right? And so Patty Jenkins had this idea that rather have her be the fish out of water, they decided to have all the Amazons speak with an Israeli accent. Well, as a Jewish kid, that's my Hebrew school fantasy. And to see Robin Wright on a horse talking like my 7th grade Hebrew school teacher, that was fascinating. But I just thought in Wonder Woman, they showed love for the character. And as a matter of fact, on the podcast review that we did, the last 20 minutes of Wonder Woman turn into what Man of Steel was, Batman v Superman was, her fighting this giant CGI character. But the first 80 minutes of it are reverential.
For me, the one thing I think they did really well with the Wonder Woman film is show her power outside of anyone else's independence. I.e. the example of her going across no man's land. I thought that scene was beautifully done. Showed her taking charge and finally not asking for permission and doing it her way and showing that she can get him across. No hesitation. She knew it was like for a moment she forgot that she was a warrior, but then when she saw that battlefield, she knew who she was. And her walking across that and then getting everyone else across there, and just the way that the director shot it with the cinematography, the music, the slow-mo at the right parts, and her just pushing through was one of the best scenes in there for me that really displayed her power, where it wasn't over-sexualized. It wasn't dependent on a man coming in to help her or toss her a grenade at the last minute to make something happen. She did it all on her. Whenever the fight scenes happened, it was all her. Like, there was no shadow of a doubt that she was a legitimate power throughout that film. Does anyone have anything that they think was very good about Wonder Woman that stood out for them?
Or bad.
Or bad? Yes.
I think it benefited Wonder Woman and Aquaman as well, that they treated their characters like people, as opposed to like the cardboard cutouts that they wanted them to be for like BVS. Not so much Man of Steel, but definitely BVS.
Okay.
Forced into roles instead of treating them like people.
No, I get what you're saying, because Batman was definitely forced into a role of BVS because Batman's smarter than that. There's no way we would have pulled that off. So I absolutely
not that naive.
Yeah. So Wonder Woman obviously had huge momentum going into this film. Being as it was labeled for this time, first female-led superhero movie. And we're going to get to see this female look amazing, confident, strong. It was promoted to women of all age ranges, and it was just like something that everyone was waiting for. And I think there's a lot of factors that play into that. And it almost kind of gets me thinking, like, are companies like doing this stuff on purpose? Like, for example, and I think like what adds to it is that whole thing, if you guys remember that whole thing where everyone was like, where the hell are the Black Widow toys at?
Yeah.
You have all these toys come out, there's no Black Widow toy. Where's the Rey action figure? She's the star of the movie.
Yeah.
Where's Rey's lightsaber? Where's Rey's action figure? Where's all her toys at? But then, like, once there was like a week of fandom going off about this and how you don't have these figures and stuff in here, or like, where's the Black Widow movie? All of a sudden, oh, there's the Rey toy. There's the Black Widow toy. Oh, here's a deluxe box figure with Black Widow and Rey and all this stuff in here. Then all that stuff comes out. And then kind of like everyone's saying, it's been 10 years. Black Widow ever gonna get a movie? She's one of the original 6. She's been in like almost every movie. She doesn't get her own movie, but everyone else is getting the movie before. And Black Widow is just a regular woman who is well trained and kicking butt. So why doesn't she have a movie? Then you come around, you make the announcement, Wonder Woman's coming out. You make the announcement, it's gonna be directed by a female. Then you have this movie that, because it's being seen and produced through a female's eye, we have a very good representation of a positive, confident, strong female in these trailers. There is, because I think, I don't know if you remember this, the comparison was made after Wonder Woman came out, and then Zack Snyder got a hold of it again, and was it Justice League?
Yeah.
And there was a completely different essence of the Amazons, because it was being directed by Zack Snyder versus Patty Jenkins, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but they shoehorned a couple of really awkward moments because of the success of Wonder Woman. The fight scene between Bruce Wayne and Diana when they're arguing, and he brings up Steve Trevor for no reason.
That was also
So awkward. It was so weird. It was just like, that's like saying, yeah, well, I have a bigger house than you.
Yeah.
It just didn't have any, there's no continuity, there's no flow to it. And, I have a rule about actors, because I think these actors are brilliant. Like, I think all of them are brilliant. And here's the way I describe that. Ryan Reynolds was great in Green Lantern. Hold on. It is not Ryan Reynolds' fault he fought a cloud.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. So when we talk about these characters, I don't want to sound like we're down on Henry Cavill. It's not his fault he didn't save a cat out of a tree. You know, to me, this is all about the vision that you set forward, and the success that Wonder Woman brought opened the doors, I thought, because it allowed them to realize that they could go to the source material as much as possible and continue to produce successful movies. There was an analogy made: how is Marvel hitting home runs with C's and D level characters, the Guardians of the Galaxy? But DC is swinging and missing and hitting singles with their A-list until Wonder Woman.
I think those are very valid points. So I think we're talking about a couple good things, and a lot of that has to do with perceptions and things like that as well. So we've got several films of Batman and Superman. We've got people trying to, I guess the only word you could say is replace people that have done amazing jobs at it, such as Christopher Reeves and Michael Keaton. So it's kind of hard to follow up on those because, as you said, even with the production of the film and stuff like that, those actors in those roles still did amazing jobs. And I actually appreciate you saying that about Ryan Reynolds and Henry Cavill stuff, because that is a very good point. Although, again, I love Man of Steel. Ryan Reynolds did do great for what he was given. And I will stand by it. Again, you want to go outside, fight me. Ben Affleck did an amazing job as Batman.
Sure.
He cannot control that they made him tell jokes like he was the punchline of everything else. I don't understand that at all. Batman tells one joke every 10 years. And it's funny because he tells one joke every 10 years. Not 5 in a 20-minute time span. Just doesn't work. But, so, we've got Wonder Woman. Super successful, going in the right direction, and then we bring up the movie where they're shoehorned in Justice League, they're shoehorned into a role. So I came up with, this little trial. Sometimes there's pathways that you have to go through to get somewhere. So we've got Man of Steel, we've got Batman v Superman, and
Suicide
Squad, and so I think Suicide Squad has its faults, but it's a fun movie. I think it's fun. I can see all the errors in Suicide Squad, and I can understand why people don't like it, but it's a fun film. And I can see in that direction, in that film, that's where DC and Warner Bros. Are trying to turn things around. So my theory is Suicide Squad and BV Superman, is that it? Yeah. That's a mouthful. Are the potholes that they had to make, because that is the point where they started to change the direction. In BV Superman, they saw it wasn't working. Suicide Squad, they started to adapt and change it, and then we get Wonder Woman that is completely different from the rest of the films.
See, I don't know if I agree with that. I just think that they tried so hard to be different. And they were seeing their competition take B and C list characters, make charming, romantic films. Iron Man, Captain America. You're seeing that happen. And DC was so determined to be different that they took characters that have stood the test of time, and that they do something I call change for change's sake. It's just to be different. And to me, that's unfortunate. I thought that they set the bar so low with Man of Steel that when Batman v Superman happens and the CGI character, again, Zack Snyder's obsession with CGI characters, this idea that that Superman dies, I thought lacked resonance, because here's two things that I took away from that. Number one, who was dumb enough to think he was really going to be dead? That's number one. And number two, when was he likable enough that I'm sad about it? And I thought you lost that. So that in Justice League, when he returns, it's the worst kept secret in the world. You were expecting it to happen. And on top of that, you inserted some of the corniest lines. He literally is laying on the ground going, I wish I stayed dead. And Henry Cavill's better than that as an actor. And what they did was they took an angry man from Man of Steel and they made him jokey. They made him dive into a bathtub with all his clothes on. They made him do things that are so not Superman. And I would, forgive me, this is not to plug a podcast. But the reason why the Hall of Justice has lasted is because we had Zack Snyder on. And we made a little bit of news because Zack Snyder ripped Superman fans. And it wasn't, I didn't goad him into it, he did it. And it went viral.
Yeah.
And what Zack Snyder did that I thought it was his mistake was he said that every Superman fan out there thinks that the only Superman is Christopher Reeve. And that's not true. There are older people that think George Reeves is Superman. There are younger people that think Tim Daly is Superman. There are even younger people who think George Newbern is their Superman. Your Superman can be anything. And the reality of it is just because he's Superman doesn't mean he has to be different. You didn't have to make him so angry. And as a result, I just thought the whole arc that you're taking. And if you notice, what were the last two movies? And I know I'm jumping around, but what are Aquaman and Shazam? It's almost like they are the anti-Man of Steel. And if DC wanted to commit to that genre, then do it. Keep going. But the minute Justice League flopped, what'd they do? They abandoned ship.
Oh, yeah. So, I see we're just going to keep coming back to this. It's just going to happen either way it goes. I disagree. I don't think that Clark or Superman was angry in Man of Steel. I feel like he was confused. And one of the biggest mistakes that I feel people make with Man of Steel is that the preconceived notion of Ma and Pa Kent raising Clark Kent in the 1950s is in our heads. That's what we all know. And that is a different parentage to someone raising their kid in the year 2000. That is completely different. And that's something that I capture and understand because I am a parent now. And I am raising kids in this era. And when Pa Kent says to Clark that maybe you shouldn't have saved those kids, I get it. I understand what he's saying because you are my kid. And you, honestly, I hate to say it, but you're the only one I care about. And his parents were trying to protect him, which gave him a mixed message. And when he has all this power and he tried to do something where he saved people, his dad scolded him for it because he wants him to be safe. He's confused this whole film and trying to figure him out. And you go to the other Superman films.
He lets his dad die.
I'm so glad you put that. That's excellent. That's so excellent.
He's Superman. What?
You're exactly right. Here's the thing with that scene. When Clark is talking to his dad in that car, this is the one mistake that, well, y'all can agree with me or disagree if you want. This is the one mistake that I feel Zack Snyder made. He didn't have the kid actor in that car. Henry Cavill does not look like a 16-year-old kid. But that's the age he is when he's arguing with his dad in that car.
That's a fair point.
Zack Snyder brought Henry Cavill in because he was a better actor. I don't give a damn how good of an actor he is. He's not 16-year-old Zack Snyder. You needed to have that kid in there. And this is why that part sucks. Because if that kid is in that scene makes complete sense. Henry Cavill, you see a grown man. A grown man that can make his own decisions and choices. But take Henry Cavill out that scene. It's a 15-year-old kid, a 16-year-old kid arguing with his dad. You've argued with your parent, your guardian, your mom, whoever. You've talked back to him like that. And for him to say, I don't know why I have to listen to you, you're not my dad. I can relate to that. I've had that happen. So when he tells him, when Paul Kent is looking at him, and he tells him to stop, that is a father talking to his son. And he's telling him, we just had this whole argument where you feel like you're a man. If you're a man and you're ready for the repercussions of what happens when you come out here and save me, the government coming to take you, experimenting on you, keeping you locked up in a basement, then come save me if you're ready for that. But that's a 15-year-old kid who got scared at what could happen from him saving his dad. And all that came back to him in that moment. And he hesitated and doubted for 1 second. And in that time, he lost his dad. Because he's still a kid. He's not a man who's had experiences. He's still a kid in that moment. And kids make mistakes, and they do dumb stuff, and they question themselves, and they doubt themselves. They have fears. That's a huge fear to have, that you know you're not from this planet, and you're growing up in this time and era, and you know how you see how the government is. He's going in a basement, and he's not coming back out. He doesn't know that he's completely invulnerable. He doesn't know how strong he is. He doesn't know that he can break out of that jail cell that they put him in and they lock him up, that he can get out. He doesn't know any of that. We do, but that's from our preconceived notions. And Zack Snyder using a grown man to be a 16-year-old kid. That's one of my
No, that's a great point. It's still a dumb scene. It's a great point.
So, moving on. So we got, what was this, Aquaman?
You want to do Aquaman?
Yeah. Now, I think Aquaman is just amazingly fun. It is unforgivably a comic book movie. They said, we're going to put it all in there, and then you get Jason Momoa, who is amazing, all right? You get him in there, and you turn around that preconceived, jokey notion of Aquaman being a joke, and you put this bad man in there with all these tattoos on him, this long flowing hair, all these muscles, and you're like, yeah, Aquaman's not a joke. Aquaman's coming for it. And these are the type of roles that Jason Momoa can play and make fun, and he has personality. He can make you laugh, he can turn you on, and he can punch you in the face. And these are things that we are gravitating towards with him. And then with all the, what's the director's name?
James Wan.
James Wan just went for it. He went for it. It is colorful, it is bright, it is giant alligators being ridden by men and sharks, all of it. It is a great popcorn flick. My only thing that I did not like about it, I think they put too much into it. Just a bit too much. Like, there's stuff that they could have had in there for the sequel, like the Mantis stuff. The Mantis stuff is great.
Yeah.
That could have been the sequel.
Great actor, too.
Yeah. That could have been your after credit scene, and that would have been Aquaman 2, the story of Mantis coming after him, whatever. But it's still fun. It's very upbeat. It's very bright. And like you said, it's not dark. It's not gritty. I mean, they have some very serious obstacles, but they go for it. What do you think, Seth?
Okay. This is going to be very unpopular.
Oh, all right.
James Wan and DC showed great reverence for the source material.
Mm-hmm.
Mira looks like Mira. Atlantis looks like Atlantis. Orm looks like Orm. Like, everything is to the letter from the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that is different is the one thing James Wan had no say in. Jason Momoa. Because when Zack Snyder was casting the Justice League, Zack Snyder chose, we can't do Aquaman. We can't do the blonde-haired king. We'll do that guy. And so, the only thing that is a fish out of water in an authentic Aquaman movie is Aquaman. And I think this comes from James Wan was hired after Jason Momoa was cast.
Yeah.
It's like a sports analogy. It's when the manager comes in and he inherits the players.
Yeah.
He didn't pick the players, so he cast everyone except for Momoa. And the thing I don't like about Momoa, and he's a great actor, don't get me wrong, plus he could beat me up. But the thing I didn't like about Momoa, again, wasn't his fault. Ryan Reynolds fought a cloud. The idea that they wanted him to be different. I kept thinking during all these key scenes, did you ever see the Justice League animated series where Aquaman cuts his arm off? That's Aquaman, right? That's Aquaman. I'm not saying he has to be blonde-haired, the guy from the Super Friends, but I'm saying that you diverted so far from the source material with one aspect, because Zack Snyder cast Jason Momoa, not James Wan. And I thought the Aquaman movie was pulled from the source material, except for him. And I didn't like the fact that at every moment, I thought he was going to say gnarly. And it was because they had to play to the actor, not the character. And as a superhero fan, I care about the characters, not who's playing them.
That's a very good point.
Thank you.
That's something I didn't realize because I enjoy Jason Momoa.
Yeah,
and I
look,
think he's entertaining.
it's not his fault. He
Yeah.
didn't do anything wrong, but he was the cool man. And that's because when they cast Justice League, they said, we can't put a blonde-haired king of Atlantis in that Justice League. It had to be changed for change's sake, and it's because Superman can't have red underwear, Batman has to be old and smart-alecky, and Aquaman has to be a surfer guy, Hawaiian. And to me, what it was why is it changed? When you look at the Guardians of the Galaxy, they are pulled from the pages. And in that movie, Ocean Master is literally pulled from the pages. The only thing different is Momoa.
So, very valid point being said here. Do you all think, with the success that this film has, that they're right? That we couldn't do a blonde-haired Aquaman the way he is in the comic book, and this film bring in the money that it brought in?
I agree. Yes.
Not here.
Nice. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. With Jason, no, because in the comics, he's a son of the sea, and he's on land. So it makes sense to cast a Hawaiian or somebody from the islands to play Aquaman instead of the white hair. Blonde hair dude. He's from the islands, so Aquaman, land of the sea. It goes so much deeper than that. So I think it's the right move that cast him.
Okay.
I like that it evolves, that it's not like the typical blonde hair. I don't think it would have done as well. It wouldn't get over like $1 billion worldwide, at the box office. And I kind of like
But why do you think they didn't change anything else? Why was everything so authentic except for him?
because they wanted a star. They wanted to be driven from a star that can pack people in movie theaters. My other point is with the Joker. I mean, I'm glad that the Joker hasn't been the same since Cesar Romero all the way to the new guy that's playing him. I kind of like how they keep changing the character to make it more interesting. I don't want the same Joker over and over.
Mm-hmm. I have one back here, and then I'll get you guys.
I thought that you said that everything was absolutely perfect straight out of the comics except Jason Momoa. He was the fish out of water in a fish out of water story. Is there any possibility, or has anybody said anything about using that and leaning into him being the fish out of water by look even more? Well,
the Blu-ray does talk about that. They address this. This isn't like a cockamamie thing I came up with. Like, they address this stuff. I'm not breaking any news here. You know, we'd definitely be recording this. The idea that the Justice League was cast, and then they decided to greenlight these other films, and James Wan hadn't been hired. And the only question that, to me, doesn't get answered is, it's not about blonde hair. It's not about blonde hair. It's not about his look. I'm not obsessed with his look. What I was obsessed with was his lack of regalness. Yeah, that again, think about The Enemy Below, the Justice League story, where he is so angry, but he's so torn, and he's so mad and so not trusting. And all of those things, that is an amazing Aquaman story. And what it is was, to me, that is so loyal to the character. And I just think what Zack Snyder did was wanted to change all of them. He said that the Justice League that has been successful, that's been a cartoon that was award-winning, that had a comic book for 70 years, we had to change it. And so we're going to change Superman, we're going to change Batman, we're going to change this one, that one, and we got to get that guy to be Aquaman, because the comic book fan wasn't being serviced. You remember they talk about Endgame and they say all that Endgame is fan service? Mm-hmm. Nothing in Justice League is fan service. But they had him, right? They have him, and they say, how do we craft a movie around it? So then they hire James Wan, and James Wan says, well, if I'm going to do an Aquaman movie, I'm bringing I'm bringing the comic book to life. And so, to me, it's a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't fit. And it's not because Momoa is not likable, and it's not because the movie's not good. It's just, I don't think he's Aquaman.
Yes.
I wanted to say, I had no problem with him, because first of all, I did not want the Super Friends Aquaman. That was like giving me nightmares over this. And the second thing is,
He had a real
it works.
gravelly
He
voice.
is cool, he is the Thor of the water.
Right.
It worked.
So I think that kind of bounces around to those memes, those GIFs, those little animated shorts, where we have the classic Justice League version of them, and it's a constant run-along joke.
Yeah.
So visually, we want to detach, or maybe they think
Right.
I didn't see that.
They said a big influence on the movie and the casting of Momoa was Entourage, because they spoofed him. They said it was a character that was spoofed. So if you're going to bring legitimacy to it, again, you have to change. So that's fine. Why didn't they change anything else in the movie? Because you love the source material. Well, if you love the source material, why is it him?
And
It's like this circle.
the source material isn't the joke. The Aquaman is the joke.
Yeah.
So that Aquaman doesn't really add anything to the team. He talks to fish. He's always being left out. That's the joke. So like everything else is fine. We can make all the rest of the stuff work. But he's been a comedic punchline for so long. Himself that we want to step outside of that, because I mean, there's tons of memes and gifs of him or whatnot. But still, very valid point of where was his regalness, because we could have done that. So Zach did change a big part of it that may have necessarily not needed to be changed, because Aquaman is very faithful and stubborn in his ways to his people and his kingdom. Like that is an Injustice, the video game. I mean, he is all about it.
Great.
Like, you're not coming in here, you're not doing anything.
Yep.
I'm not helping you because those are your problems. Yes.
See, this is what you get when you try to make the team movie first,
Right.
instead of making all the individual movies first like Marvel did. Because then you kind of already have the character. So Avengers works.
They couldn't wait to get Justice League in the theaters.
Right.
Hold up. I would say this is what happens when you rush into it, because the animated cartoons, the Justice League, and the single movies work perfectly. They are loosely tied together, but they're still tied together, and they don't try to beat us over the head with origins or anything like that. They just tell their story, because in all honesty, the DC characters are known. Everyone knows who they are. They know their origins. They know where they come from. Everyone knows about the Justice League characters.
But that's their flaw, because they think that anything with an S is Superman. And that's not it. What gives Superman, what makes him Superman, is the character. And they lost that. They lost that somehow. They had to do something that wasn't Christopher Reeve. Poor Brandon Routh, right? They couldn't keep that going. Which, okay, fine, that's your argument. Did anybody see Superman Unbound, the animated film?
Yeah.
Did anybody see the Dark Side arc in the Superman animated series, when Superman is so angry after they killed Dan Turpin? Tell me that's Christopher Reeve. It's not. That's Superman. And you could do that. And no one said the Superman animated series was different. They said it was brilliant. Take brilliant source material and translate it with all this technology that you have and make magical movies. Take your A-list characters and make A-list movies.
Yeah, well, for two things. That's the thing. DC isn't Marvel. That's the thing. DC has always been dark and gritty, and Marvel has been fun. So, in Zack, he had a plan. He had arc with Kal-El. He's on Man of Steel. He's here. He's on Earth now from Krypton, and he has to grow and find a place in the world. And then it was an arc, but it got destroyed by bloggers and critics saying, "Oh, DC should like more." Like, no. Zack had a plan. Now it's destroyed because of people who don't read comics. So So Zack had a plan. Had a plan with Superman as the front and center character with all the stories intertwining. Superman was the main focal point, so it's all tied together. Now it's lost. So
I mean, I'm with you. I know. The Superman we got in Justice League is the super rush version of what we were supposed to get from Zack Snyder, and I am 110% behind that, because in Man of Steel he's not Superman. Nowhere in that movie is he Superman. He is a Kryptonian that has been living on Earth trying to figure out who he is. That is literally the birth of Superman. And I'm a very big believer in how can we have the Superman that everyone knows and loves, as far as the idea, the concept, the truth, the justice, and all that stuff, if he doesn't experience and go through things. That's what Man of Steel is supposed to be. The next movie, that's when we build him up to be the person that, or the superhero that we all know and love. That's what's supposed to be Man of Steel 2. Because, yes, he killed Zod. Okay, he snapped his neck. I get that. But do you...
He can't find the bomb because he's angry?
No, I don't.
He was distracted?
No, he couldn't see. It was lay at line. He couldn't see through it. He couldn't see it.
You guys lost me. I'm just saying, like, he killed Zod and he took a life and he felt that. He felt all that emotion. He felt all that pain. That last scene where he screams out, he's never going to take another life again. He sees all the destruction, everything that happens. He's never going to allow that to happen again. He has seen his strength. He has seen what he can do. That's where you start building up the truth, justice for all, and I will do everything in my power to not let this happen again. I will not take a life. I will not kill. I will not let. That's where all those that foundation starts to get built up.
So I would buy that had not hundreds of thousands of people died in the fight.
Yeah.
That was the part that him killing Zod there felt cheap to me, when so many people had to have died in that fight. And I get that maybe
That's a great point.
Why can't they get him to go to the Fortress of Solitude like a Superman 2?
That is a super great point. But again, he is fighting a ton of people that have been trained since birth to fight. And like Zod said, I mean, this movie says it for you in plain text. Where did you learn how to fight, Clark? On a farm? Yeah, Zod, I did. On a farm. So he doesn't know how to fight. That's why his second in command takes him apart in seconds. And he's fighting 5 other people that are just as strong as him, but can fight. He's overwhelmed. He does not know the scope and scale of his power. He doesn't know how much he can do. So those people dying is a casualty of building up him. Again, that's never going to happen again because he knows what he can do now. He's a rookie. He's not Superman in that movie.
Okay, I'm glad you
Hold
also.
up. They had next. And then we'll get you.
Good try.
He's never Superman in that movie, but I think that's the only movie out of the DCEU that has any moments where he was Superman.
Mm-hmm.
When they take him into the bunker where they arrest him, that's where he starts becoming Superman. And I thought that's where they were getting him to that place where he could be the iconic character. They backpedaled in BVS, but I think that movie had the only scene where he was Superman.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And he also makes that point too, and Seth has made that point. Once the audience got a hold of it and our fandom voiced all their opinions about it, DC started to change.
They read their tweets more than anything.
Than actually, and I understand there are people that don't like that film, and I got that. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. No one's opinion, like your opinion is your opinion. You have a right to have that. But DC should have stuck to their guns. But and Seth is making a very good point. They constantly change. They constantly change their perspective. These movies are fun, and they have made a lot of money, but they're completely different from what it was. I mean, even from the first, the first Batman movies that came out, and the first Superman movies, obviously they are completely different from that. I agree with you. We are starting. You see little inceptions of Superman being built, but that's the point of that movie, is for him to teardrop this stuff, information, like, oh, there's a moment. Oh, there's a moment. Then we get to the next film. Here's a moment, here's a moment, here's a moment, here's a moment. And then we get him. He's supposed to be built. This version is supposed to be built up. Because literally, Clark was raised in this current era where we're raising our kids now. That's the experience. That's, in his eyes, of what this Superman would be. And that's why me personally, I can get behind it, because I am raising my kids up in this era. So a lot of stuff that Paul Kent says, I'm like, it's messed up, but maybe you should let those kids die. I don't want you to get hurt. You're my kid. I have to do everything in my power to protect you and make sure you see another day. How much time we got?
10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
We got another panel, by the way, at 8 o'clock. Can I play?
Yeah.
We're doing a panel at 8 o'clock that we didn't have planned when we got here, but when Sony and Marvel.
Oh.
They divorced. We have a breaking news emergency pin.
That's
So
what's
we have
up.
something at 8 o'clock in one of these rooms.
What you guys are doing?
All right, so I think somebody else had their hands up. I don't want to miss anybody. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I'm glad you brought up my favorite DC hero who has been ill-served in this, which is Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I realize he's second tier, but he's always been a mainstay of like the Justice League.
Yes.
And was the Ryan Reynolds film supposed to be the start of this? I
The
heard
Ryan
that-
Reynolds film, though, was created before the commitment to eventually get to a Justice League movie. Okay, so what I equate the Green Lantern film to Superman Returns or the Dark Knight trilogy. They're just standalone DC movies. Now, if that movie had done really well and gotten a great buzz, there's Green Lantern 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you get your Green Lantern Corps, but I don't think that there was the vision for even Man of Steel when they conceptualized Green Lantern.
Well, they had the Abensur origin story of Hal Jordan. They did all of that right. So why wasn't he fighting Sinestro at the end?
Dude,
And not...
He fought a cloud.
I think Seth made a very good point that Ryan Reynolds did great in that movie.
I thought the CGI was brilliant. I thought Ryan Reynolds was great. I thought the chemistry with him and Carol Ferris was fantastic. Like, there's so much right, and then they make this villain. It's literally yellow dust, and at the end of it, you're just thinking like, what's the point of this? And to me, they insulted the character, and to me it's all about the end, because I thought the beginning of it was right on. I'm watching that movie and I'm like, this is a Green Lantern movie.
Well, my understanding was that they really were hoping that Green Lantern could start a whole connected universe of movies, but and that was part of the reason why they went with Green Lantern instead of Superman or Batman for the first film, was because Marvel had made Iron Man work so well. And then,
but you mention Iron Man. What is Iron Man? An origin that was changed because Marvel said the Iron Man storyline is boring. We have to ham this up. We have to ramp this up. And they brought you something that was an entertaining film on a boring character. I think we all agree. What's the best Iron Man story?
well, continue with what I was saying. The other problem was that Warner Brothers was in such a hurry to get the Green Lantern film made. Apparently, the original script had a lot of material they were not able to use, and then they had to change because they were insistent on the 2011 release date because they wanted to be. They knew that Marvel was going to be getting the Avengers ready because in 2011 they did Captain America and Thor, so they were really insistent the movie come out in 2011. So they didn't really have time to do a lot of what was originally intended for it.
And I'm gonna piggyback on what he said. It's a game of patience. Iron Man is a C-lister character. Marvel, in the comic books, has told us for years, Captain America, the Avengers, Iron Man, those are Earth's greatest heroes. But the books that were selling were Spider-Man and the X-Men.
Spider-Man and the X-Men.
Those were the Earth's most popular characters.
And when Marvel was bankrupt, who were the ones that they got to sell?
Spider-Man and the X-Men.
Yeah.
So Marvel was forced in a situation with the IPs they had left to make those characters pop, to make those characters cool. And you got Iron Man, and you got Robert Downey Jr. in there, and as he said, they hammed it up. They gave you an entertaining movie. We all loved it. We thought it was great. We thought Robert was funny in that movie. We thought the action was good. And now that C-lister has now become an A-lister. And they
Can I
took
tell
the time.
a 30-second dumb Marvel story?
Go ahead.
My wife in the 2000s, right around Spider-Man 3, worked for Marvel. This is pre-Disney. And she came home one day and says, they are going to finance their own movie. I said, wow, that's bold. Like, this was a company that was bankrupt, like, less than 10 years ago. Like, wow. She said, they're going to make Iron Man. This is before Favreau and before Downey. And I looked at her and I said, that is the dumbest idea I have ever heard. And without Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr., I'd have been right. Because you can't tell me what was a good Iron Man cartoon. What was a good Iron Man comic book? What, when he was drunk? And so you took the character and you built up. And still at the end of it, he looked like Iron Man. And when DC had the success that the Nolan films made with Batman, they said, we have to piggyback on that. How can we take our true blue hero and change him? Let's change.
Yes, sir.
Shazam was awesome.
Okay, so you're here at this panel, right?
Right.
Why Philadelphia? What happened to Fawcett City? What again, Billy Batson grew up in Fawcett City. He was Captain Marvel. Now, I understand you can't call him Captain Marvel. Why Philadelphia? Was the director like a Flyers fan? Like, what was the reason? Again, why the change?
I think this is the last thing, and then we have to wrap it up. But I think I coined that to something that we do in our comic books, and it's called relatability. Something that people can attach to and have be normal with. My book, Hot Shot, takes place in Columbus, Ohio, because I live in Ohio. That's where I reside at. And those are things that I know. So when I sell the book, people can understand that, and it does well.
And a lot of artistic people come from Columbus.
They do. We got a number of people out here. Philadelphia is a very popular city. There are a lot of movies that have Philadelphia at the center point of them. So I just think it's a coin of saying, like, oh, Philadelphia, I love that city. That's a cool city. And it's not something very big, but it's little
Gotham City, Metropolis, Coast City, Philadelphia.
And I think so. Gotham City, Metropolis, Coast City. Again, so we got these characters all in 3 films that people didn't like in made up cities. One more, and we gotta wrap.
Characters all bring out of New York.
Huh?
I said all of Marvel's characters
Sure.
all bring out of New York.
Hey,
It's like Starbucks. You walking down the street, oh, there's a superhero.
I agree.
Also, I know what Gotham is, I know what Metropolis is. I had no idea that Shazam came from a different, like, made-up city.
Fawcett City.
So I think that's less known, and people would be like, what's Fawcett City?
Right.
Well, we gotta wrap up. I'm getting that signal to go. I am so sorry. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming out to this panel. I think it went fantastic. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you, Seth, for joining us today. Have applause for yourselves. I am at table A23 in Artist Alley. If you guys want to swing down there with me, I'll be walking down there now, and I will give you a free item just for being here today and checking me out. You just gotta look at the stuff I brought. That's the deal, okay? All right. Cool beans, everybody. Thank you again.
What's your opinion, man?
As far as well, I think
Everyone just hates DC like BVS. So, like you say, how Hawkins said, when you step outside the world, like when you make yourself known, it'll change the world. And that's what BVS was. After Man of Steel, after the Man of Steel, after General Zod and the Black Zero, yeah, Batman, he's at the age now, he's 20, 40, he's old and hardened, and he sees this God, I'm like, I have to destroy him. I'm like, I just think everyone just shits on Zack and BVS.
So you're a fan of Zack?
Yes.
Okay.
So it hurts me to hear that.
My opinion is, after Ben Rock played him, he wanted to take the character in a
Thank you.
direction.
All right, everybody in Facebook world, thanks for tuning in. Hope you had fun. I got 3 more panels tomorrow.
Oh.